We're living in extremely challenging times. I feel raw. My patience is shot, and I'm ready to bite people's heads off for the slightest things. And I can feel my critical voice waiting to pounce every time I lose my patience. And I'm guessing you might have a critical voice that attacks you too. Am I right? I'm picturing a big cat. It's like a mountain lion, stalking its prey, you, waiting, then pounce. It's got you in its claws, sharp words coming in for the kill. I'm an idiot. Will I never learn? Yep, instead of fangs, our critical voices use harsh words to attack us. I can tell you in the 25 years since I founded my nonprofit, The Body Positive, with Elizabeth Scott, I haven't met a single person who doesn't have a critical voice. And that's out of the thousands of people that have gone through our training programs. I don't teach people how to get rid of their critical voices because that's impossible. I teach people how to practice self-love. I won't say that your critical voice will disappear forever, even if you're the most self-loving person on the planet. Okay, maybe if you're as enlightened as the Dalai Lama. But if you're anything like me, I don't think you're there yet. So how do we practice self-love? How can we be kinder to ourselves? Before we know self-love, we have to understand the critical voice. Our brains are like sponges. They soak up all of the mean things people say and do to us, and they turn other people's messages into our own. Listen to me, they say. If you just exercise every day and get fit, then you'd be attractive. Ugh. Or, even worse, they do things like whisper to us in our low moments, "You're an utter failure." Why do we listen? Why do we listen? Negative bias. It's what scientists call our tendency to cling to the memories of our perceived mistakes and the hurtful things that happen to us and forget all of the wonderful things that make us good and caring people. The good news is that our brains have plasticity, so it is possible to train ourselves to hold on to the good stuff and focus less on the negative. I'll tell you from personal experience, though, it takes a lot of practice. So let's start with a baby step by taking a deep breath together. As you inhale, imagine that your breath is filling up all of your trillions and trillions of cells with kindness. And as you exhale, see if you can let go, even just for this moment, of any self-critical thoughts you might be holding. Inhaling kindness, exhaling self-criticism. I didn't always have a self-love practice. I remember a hot Chico, California afternoon, and I'm standing in front of my metal, dingy gray 10th grade locker. You know that sick feeling of fear you get in your stomach before something awful's about to happen? That's how I feel as I lift the latch and swing open my locker door. A piece of binder paper flutters out and lands face down at my feet. My heart is racing. I pick up the paper and turn it over. Yep, it's happened again. For the third time in 2 months, I'm looking at a graphic drawing of me, badly drawn I might add, performing sexual acts on the overly enhanced boy in the picture. I feel sick. This time I have to tell someone, so I find my best friend and I show her the picture, but it doesn't do any good because neither of us know what to do. Me Too hasn't happened yet. It's the 1970s and no one's teaching high school students that sexual harassment is wrong, at least not in my rural town. So I blame myself. Of course I do, right? There must be something horribly wrong with me for these boys I thought were my friends, to torture me like this. My critical voice says to me, "You're fat and ugly and that's why this happened." So I do what I always do to fix myself. I start another diet. But this time, my desperation to lose weight is so extreme that I develop bulimia, and I struggle with it for the next 6 years of my life. But I am one of the lucky ones. I survived. My sister Stephanie wasn't so lucky. As a nearly 6-foot-tall girl who wore size 12 shoes and never really fit in at school, she blamed her body for all of her problems. The shame she felt about her body size led to binge eating and weight gain. And my dad, who was a very loving father but who had his own food and body image issues, hassled my sister about her weight. Dinner table comments included things like, "Are you sure you want to have seconds tonight, Stephanie?" Or, "Do you know how many calories are in that piece of cheesecake?" Like me, Stephanie developed bulimia, but unlike me, she struggled with it for the rest of her life. And it didn't help that after she lost weight, she got the most dangerous compliment of all from my dad. "You look great, Stephanie. How much weight have you lost now?" In her early 20s, Stephanie got breast implants. One of them was faulty and poisoned her body with silicone. It led to lupus cerebritis, an autoimmune disease that killed her 15 years later at the age of 36. The moment I found out Stephanie died is imprinted in my brain forever. It's a warm October afternoon, and my husband and I are just back from taking our 1-year-old daughter Carmen to the little farm in the Berkeley Hills. I can still see Carmen toddling around with a very determined look on her face and hear her squeal in delight as she feeds a piece of lettuce to a big brown cow. When we get home, I go in the kitchen and I see the red light flashing on our answering machine. I push the play button. It's my sister Marcia. Her voice is choked with shock as she says, "Connie, Dad just called to tell me Stephanie died." I don't hear the rest of Marcia's message. I'm falling to the floor. I can't breathe. Jim puts his arms around me and my breath finally comes. And it's followed by a sound I've never heard come out of me before. Oh, 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 oh. Later that evening, Marcia and I are at the mortuary to say goodbye to our beloved Stephanie. She's lying on a cold metal table, and tubes are coming out of her nose and mouth from the paramedics who tried unsuccessfully to save her. We tell Stephanie how much we love her, and I stroke her arm and kiss her on the forehead before we leave. Stephanie's death is my call to action. I can't stop thinking about why my sister died. It comes down to this: body hatred killed my sister. I'm so afraid now that Carmen will grow up to hate her precious body or turn on herself like I did if she gets tortured at school. Why will she be any different from Stephanie or me or every other girl in this world? My rage and my fear are the catalysts for one of the most important decisions of my life. I will change the world for my baby girl. And that's how the Body Positive was born. And I did change Carmen's world. She grew up in the Body Positive community, surrounded by diverse people, all doing the work to love themselves. Carmen's world is different because she developed self-love. Actually, what happened is she never lost it. So what exactly is this elusive self-love? You might not think self-love is something you're born with, especially if you have a persistent critical voice. When I was writing my book Embody, the dictionary definitions for self-love that I found only listed things like conceit, narcissism, selfishness, competition. If that's self-love, I don't want it. But the fact is, self-love has nothing to do with ego. It's something we all need for our self-preservation, for our protection. And it leads to deeper connections with others. With self-love, we don't have to compete with people or compare ourselves to them. We can be vulnerable and show people who we truly are, flaws and all. In the early days of the Body Positive, I was told not to use the phrase self-love. Everyone had their reasons, but my favorite comment of all was, "You shouldn't say self-love, Connie. People might think you're talking about masturbation." I still crack up every time I think about that. I disagree with those who say we should replace all critical thoughts immediately with positive ones. Since the job of our critical voices, strange as it may sound, is to protect us by trying to perfect us, they only get bigger and louder the more we push them away. That's my experience anyway, and it's the same for people I've worked with all across the United States, from Nigeria, Chile, Italy, and more than 20 other countries. And it doesn't matter if I'm speaking at a company, a university, high school, middle or elementary school. The critical voice pops up everywhere. So what do we do? How do we quiet these critical voices if they're here to stay? First, we dig deep for our courage, and we face them straight on. And then we learn to love them. I took a big leap forward in loving my critical voice when I realized it sounded a lot like my daughter Carmen did when she was 4 years old and had tantrums. I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to deal with Carmen's tantrums. Trying to get her out of the toy store when she didn't want to go was not my idea of fun. But I didn't push her away, I didn't run. I turned to her because I loved her. I held her in my arms until the storm passed, and then we talked about what was upsetting her. Like how leaving the toy store when you're 4 years old feels like the world is ending. We talked about her feelings, and I validated them, and she got that it was okay to have strong emotions. The understanding I gave to Carmen was something I also needed for myself. With a lot of practice, I learned to be loving with myself when I make mistakes or when I struggle with my own emotions. So now when my critical voice speaks, I see her as the little scared child inside of me who needs attention. I don't run or push her away. I turn and I pick her up and hold her and say, "Oh, hi. You're having a hard time today, aren't you?" I show up for my scared self just as I did for my little Carmen, with love. Here's how it works. A few years ago, I'm standing on a Berkeley Street corner waiting to cross. It's a warm, sunny California day, so I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt. A woman in a green minivan rolls up to the stoplight with her window open. She looks me up and down and says, "You shouldn't wear shorts like that with legs like yours." Did she really just say that to me? When I get home, I look in the mirror at my 55-year-old thighs, and I hear myself say, "You're old and ugly." The next week I want to go for a run, but I realize I'm afraid to put on shorts because I'm repeating the awful words of the minivan woman to myself. "Shouldn't wear shorts like that with legs like yours." But this time, I'm aware that it's me doing the talking. My critical voice is like a mindfulness bell. It rings loud and clear to let me know I need to give myself some love. Thank you, thighs, for all the amazing places you've taken me in life. And then I go for my run in my shorts. A comment I hear a lot is, "Sure, you can have self-love, Connie, but I can't. There's just too many things about myself that I don't like." So here's the most important message I hope you'll take away from my talk today. Self-love, the self-protection kind, is here for us even when we don't like ourselves. And what I find so powerful is that it also can protect us from the harsh judgments that come at us from other people. I'm not at all saying it's easy for me to love myself or for you to love yourself. There are definitely obstacles, and it's especially hard for people who suffer from body-related trauma that results from oppression or abuse. We all need support to love ourselves just as we are, but sometimes a trauma specialist is what's needed to help heal the wounds that block our self-love. And sometimes we're on our own. But we don't have to be enlightened people to have self-love. One of my purposes here on earth is to role model imperfection, and I can tell you I'm doing a fantastic job. And that's my self-love talking. Loving our flawed selves, even when we blow it, that's how we learn. And it's not always easy being human, that's for sure. But what I learned from my sister's death and everything that's happened since is that life is a precious gift, even on the hard days. So, what are you going to do the next time you tell yourself you're not good enough, smart enough, attractive enough? Are you going to believe that critical voice, try and push it away? Or are you with me in turning towards that scared little part of yourself with love? Thank you. Thank you.